our Director of Technology and Innovation, Patty Boyd, to give us a quick welcome. Thank you, Patty.
Yeah, thank you, Kaylin, for the intro. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for spending this part of your day with us. We know that everybody has a lot of competing things that are going on, compete for your time. So we really appreciate you being here. So on behalf of the DCSEU, thank you. And our partners, we have IMT, we have a couple other partners we're excited to share with you, but thank you for joining us today. Maybe you've been, I've seen some familiar names and faces on the registrant list. So we do these roundtables throughout the year for different market sectors, and they're one of our favorite ways to connect directly with building owners, operators, consultants, and our industry partners. We like to share what's new. We like to make you, aware of our resources that we have available to support you. And we're really excited about today's session. Looking at that list, we were so happy to see the list that we had 81 registrants yesterday. So maybe more people registered today with a really diverse mix of perspectives, expertise. I saw hotel operators, facility teams, sustainability professionals, property owners, contractors, consultants. We're just very excited that so many of you have taken the time to be with us today. And that's the goal of what we're trying to do, is bring people together to learn from each other and share our ideas. This year is particularly important. It's BEPS 1, the closeout year for the first compliance period. And for many of you, the energy performance of your buildings matters, especially this year. So we're hoping that some of these resources are available to you and you can take advantage of the support. And as always, the DCSEU is here to help and support you for any major projects or operational improvements. Do you just want to explore incentives and figure out the best way possible? We want to be a trusted resource and partner. And with that, I will turn it over to Crystal McDonald, who is our Director of Account Management and Workforce Development. She leads the team that would have the folks come out and speak to you about your projects. So thank you, Crystal. Again, thank you everyone for being here, and I hope you enjoy today's session.
Thank you, Patty. Good afternoon, everyone. The purpose of today's session is to share information and facilitate peer exchange, bringing together hospitality facility leaders, as Patty has mentioned, the DCSEU representatives, and the Building Innovation Hub experts to discuss practical strategies for navigating BEPS compliance and advancing energy efficiency improvements across your hotel or hospitality properties. Our hope is that you will participate in the polls to surface shared priorities, challenges, and questions. We will begin with Mary Thomas, the Director of the Building Innovation Hub, who will provide guidance on the conclusion of BEPS Period 1, including how building owners and operators can close out the first compliance cycle and make effective use of the Building Innovation Hub's available resources. Lee Harold, who is one of our senior account managers at the DCSEU, she will highlight our incentive programs for building-wide energy efficiency upgrades, including opportunities related to building automation systems and refrigeration leak detection. We are happy to feature a customer spotlight to offer a practical perspective on recent projects, facility upgrades, and lessons learned from implementation in a hospitality setting. Thank you, David, for joining us. Please take notes, develop a list of action items, and follow up with our presenters to ensure you have access to reliable sources as you pursue energy and operating cost savings and GHG emissions reduction in your facilities. Again, thanks for joining us. And Mary, on to you.
Great, thank you, Crystal. Yep, that was the agenda that Crystal just went through. We've got a poll that we're hoping you all will take. Helps, as Crystal noted, collect information and also just give us a snapshot of who's here and what we all can learn from this. So I'm Mary Thomas. I'm the director of the Building Innovation Hub, which is the project of the national nonprofit, the Institute for Market Transformation. If you could advance to the next slide. Great. So hopefully you're familiar with us. The Hub has been helping the building industry in the DC area for the last 5+ years with resources, information, and vital connections necessary to create and operate healthier, more energy efficient, resilient buildings. Next slide, please. This is the Hub team. It's myself and my colleague Joy, who has actually joined the webinar today as well, and will be helping out with some Q&A. And we are here to support you. So next slide. So most of us are familiar with the Building Energy Performance Standards, or BEPS, but as a reminder, it is an outcome-based policy for existing buildings to improve actual performance across key metrics such as energy use. So I'll be taking a deeper dive into this. The standards are designed to drive continuous long-term improvement, starting with this first cycle and into the future as well. Next slide, please. So the BEPS create an opportunity to improve our buildings. Yep, next slide would be great. I think there's a little bit of a lag. BEPS create an opportunity to improve our buildings where we all live, work, and play. And in these times when we're seeing such volatile energy prices and more extreme weather, more efficient, resilient buildings help with long-term stability, affordability, and certainty for owners, operators, and occupants. It's helpful to think about benchmarking and BEPS together. Benchmarking is the key first step towards the ultimate goal of improving performance under the BEPS. Next slide. And we're in the first cycle of BEPS. As Patty noted, we're at the end. It applies to larger buildings, this first cycle, that have been benchmarking for well over a decade. And as of this year, though, benchmarking now applies to all buildings over 10,000 square feet. And in the future, similar to the benchmarking size threshold dropping, BEPS will also cover smaller buildings. And I'd like to note that the DC Council just passed legislation last week, which pushed back the start of future BEPS cycles by 1 year. But notably, this legislation did not include any delays in this first cycle. Here's where we are in this first cycle. We're currently in the valuation year, as Patty noted, which ends at the end of this year. And the benchmarking data collected from this year and submitted next May is what will be used to determine compliance. So we'll talk a bit more about what that submission looks like in a minute. But first, on our next slide, wanted to note that in order to understand how buildings have been performing with respect to BEPS and what this might look like for the future, we have been looking at benchmarking trends with AOBA. And we looked at the 2024 data, the latest available, and found that hotels are making a lot of progress. Now, this is just showing low-performing buildings that were not already in compliance at the start of the cycle. That means half the buildings were already in compliance and are not reflected here. So of the buildings on the performance pathway, I'd like to note that nearly half have improved by 20%, which if measured today would already be in compliance. And on the next slide, we also looked at hotels on the standard target pathway, where we found that 69% of hotels that were not already in compliance with BEPS at the start of the cycle are now meeting the threshold as of 2024 data. On our next slide, I want to get to kind of the heart of the matter here. How do we get to the finish line? Because that's a lot of progress, but we're not there yet. And as I said earlier, we're in the evaluation year of this compliance cycle. And this is the time to start getting ready for the end of cycle reporting due on May 3rd, 2027. And notably, owners and operators should continue to maintain improvements and implement energy efficiency measures as the data collected this year is what compliance will be based on. So this is the time to check your data and see if you're on the right pathway. And for buildings on the performance pathway, really want to underscore to make sure that you're looking at the correct metric, the adjusted site EUI in Portfolio Manager to calculate your energy savings. So that's the evaluation metric for this pathway. As a reminder, the data submitted next year will need to be third-party verified. We've got that slide up here. Actually, if we could go back to the earlier slide. Thank you. So buildings will need to be third-party verified. So as you know, we'll talk about that next. And they'll also need to submit completed actions reports. And reporting is due on May 3rd of 2027. So DOEE will use this reporting to evaluate compliance and enforcement action, which may include paying an alternative compliance payment. There are also settlement options if you are assessed a payment that we'll dive into a little deeper in the minute. And if you're experiencing financial distress, there are relief options that you can apply for. DOEE will be issuing guidance soon, but you can start that process now. So moving on to the next slide, just a little deep dive into third-party verification. We may recall that our 2023 data was submitted in 2024, and that was third-party verified by an independent credentialed verifier. And this requirement is intended to ensure the accuracy of the data, and is especially important as this is the evaluation year. So that'll be required with your submission next year as well. And on our next slide, we have resources, how-to guide, a downloadable scope of work, and a vendor matchmaking program. These are resources available on the Hub's website to support with this effort. And of course, DOEE also has helpful guidance and information on third-party verification. Now on our next slide, just a quick snapshot of our vendor matchmaking portal. It is transitioning to a new platform, but you can access it through our existing webpage. On our next slide, I mentioned that DOEE is issuing updated guidance around relief options for buildings that have tried but were unable to meet requirements for various reasons. Taking a deeper dive right now, and more information will be forthcoming. So stay tuned with the Hub. We will be definitely over the next couple of months making sure folks understand what all this means. But, you know, one of those reasons you might not have been able to comply with BEPS might be because a building was in financial distress. And the guidebook will have information on how to apply for an exemption. But in the meantime, you can actually apply for a delay. If you're in financial distress, a building can apply for a delay and get the process started if applicable. And then if a building is at the end of the compliance cycle, you've submitted all your documentation and you're assessed a payment, there will be settlement options available. And it's DOEE is providing further transparency around this, but I wanted to just note that settlement is always an option, and this guidance is just providing more certainty around what this process looks like. So two of these options are the building improvement agreements, which is a new concept that was introduced with the draft guidebook updates that were issued for public comment last year. And this settlement would allow building owners to reinvest back in the building with some compensation for the delay, and guidebook updates are forthcoming on this. And then DOEE is also considering good faith efforts recommended by the BEPS task force to provide further transparency around the settlement and the process to reduce the payment. You know, this guidance is forthcoming, but you can get ready for it now by collecting your documentation, you know, understanding what's the story, and also, you know, taking these last couple of months to make those improvements, improve those operations, and try to get your efficiency up. So our next slide will show a snapshot of the completed actions report to be submitted with your benchmarking data next May. And it's a short survey of completed energy efficiency measures that were implemented to meet performance requirements during this first cycle of BEPS. And this report will be submitted through the BEPS portal via new ticket. The form is currently live, and you currently have to be logged into the portal to see it in the new ticket menu. All right, next slide, please. Getting to the end of my presentation here. You know, folks want to understand the risks, right? For buildings that want to understand their exposure to potential alternative compliance payments. The guidebook has an enforcement chapter which outlines how to do this. The performance pathway calculation is based on how much progress a building has made towards that 20% reduction requirement. And as a reminder, it's based on adjusted site EUI, so make sure to take a look at that. And then buildings on the standard pathway can use calculations that are in the appendix. But I'd like to note that, you know, risks are not just related to compliance payments, right? There's demonstrated benefits that lowering operating costs, improving thermal comfort, durability, resilience, they all lead to better value and a better experience for the buildings where we all live, work, and play. And we didn't note that on the slide, but it's definitely important to keep that in mind. So turning to my last slide, we've been talking about getting to the finish line with this cycle. And we also want to look ahead to the next cycle, which applies to all buildings over 25,000 square feet. So buildings that did not have to take action currently, they may have to take action in the next one. And the standards reset on January 1st, 2029. So it's good to get ready now. So thank you all very much. I will turn it over to Lee with DCSEU to talk more about their incentives and technical assistance to make these building performance improvement projects a reality. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Hi, everyone. I have definitely recognized a few names I see that have definitely attended. I know I've worked with some of you guys currently, but I'm definitely here to talk about our incentive program, how to actually receive the incentives, how it works, and I'm going to be going over that in detail with you guys. So like I said, I am the senior account manager here. I've been here for about 10 years, and I've been working with hotels for quite a while now. And just to tell you a little bit more about DCSEU, although Patty did an amazing job. So we are an organization and helping to try to make clean energy more accessible to every person. So every business in the area, we're trying to help them do so by helping giving out rebates for energy efficiency projects. So we've helped district residents and businesses generate more than $2.2 billion in lifetime energy saving costs. So that's what we're here for. That's what we're going to do. And we're able to support any type of project you have as long as it's eligible within an energy efficiency realm. Next slide. So to talk about our program, so there are two pathways to go about getting some incentives, and one is just more of a technical assistant route. So one, we do have a pathway where it's self-service. So if you are working a project that has been with a chosen contractor and a defined timeline, we do have rebates for what we call our business energy rebate program, where we are able to give out up to 100K per commercial threshold. And we also do the same thing for residential, but I'm here to talk about commercial. So how this works is if you have a measure something such as lighting, HVAC, something that's very low-hanging fruit, very transactional, that is on our website, and you're able to apply for that on your own. Or if you're working with a contractor, sometimes a contractor can do this for you, but also you can also reach out to me. I can walk you through that path about how to apply for rebates. The other option, if you see your technology is not on our website, we do have what we call custom service. And this is for customers who are considering a project a little bit more on the technical side, something that may not be on the prescriptive rebate list. And this would definitely require measures such as chillers, rooftop units. And how that works is we have one of our engineers. We have them take a look at it, evaluate it. It goes to one of our third-party reviews as well. And we also just give out technical advice as well. Like sometimes some measures may not qualify, some measures may not be listed. We can also still talk to you about your business, even conduct a walkthrough to understand the lay of the land of your mechanical room, your rooftop area, to understand like why your costs might be so high and try to make recommendations toward that building. So even though we may not always be able to provide a rebate, we also definitely are here for a technical assistance as well. Next slide. Okay, so like I was talking about for business energy rebates, when you're installing equipment such as, like I said, the low-hanging fruit, such as like lighting, refrigeration, or HVAC in hotels, you can do this through our online rebate center. And this, we can get rebates for up to 100K per location per fiscal year. And here are some of what those rebates look like. Like if you're trying to do all the lighting in the hotel, or if you want to do it in phases, you can definitely apply. We do motors, we do HVAC, refrigeration is very huge. I know a lot of hotels have kitchens and things like that. Food service vending, electric lawn care may not qualify for this, but that's what we offer on the business energy rebate side. And we also offer instant rebates for the distributors. So if you are working with one of our distributors, you can already see some of our discounted lights as well. And the link is right there. I'll also put it at the end of the chat as well to be able to go online and apply for any rebates. That's the business energy rebate platform. And the custom platform, and this is where you'd be having more direct contact with me, and that's where I'd be able to help walk you through this process. This is any measure or any type of operational improvement that you're making in like I said, DC hotel that provides any sort of like long-term energy savings. So these custom measures really do include the more technical ones, like I said earlier, such as it can also include LED lighting and controls that are not on the prescriptive website. It can also include HVAC equipment, controls, a lot of refrigeration management we see, lots of rooftop units. The most popular ones that we see with hotels is chillers because, you know, it gets super hot in DC. We want everyone to stay cool. And the ways to get started is you can fill out a form. A lot of you guys know me already. You can just simply email me. You can book a time with me. And then that's my direct line as well. You can also give me a call. But if you just are trying to start out from scratch and you're really just trying to figure this out, there's also a link as well. But once I get involved, then we can just kind of talk about what type of project you're trying to pursue, what the timeline is looking like, the scope of work, and then I can definitely try to get you guys an engineer assigned. Everything looks eligible to move forward with your project. Next slide. So how the custom savings analysis works, it works through three different ways. So first, if some people just have no idea where to start and they're just trying to figure out like, hey, my energy bills are very high, where do I start first? So we do offer site walkthroughs, or we do come on site, take a look at the building, just try to look in the mechanical rooms, the rooftops, and just try to understand exactly what is going on, but existing equipment is already there. A lot of the time, some people just, or maybe might be new to the building, maybe we're coming from an older engineer and trying to understand themselves. So we do offer that. These are all at no cost since we are ratepayer funded. And after that, we also offer peer-to-peer exchange information where we have our engineers take a look. And we also all the time offer new technologies. We also have seminars on that too. So there's definitely lots of ways to go about to try to see if we have a viable project. Next, once we find out that we do have a project, we are moving forward and we are trying to get at the very end here by getting that incentive. So what we do is we analyze a project and we try to have our engineers take a look. We have, if you're working with a contractor, then we like to take quotes. We like to get documents, all the specifications you have. Sometimes when a lot of hotels are pursuing BAS projects, we like to look at the data and to try to make sure it makes sense and look at the overall performance of the building. So it's a lot of review of documents, a lot of review of the equipment and seeing what's trying to be implemented and see how it's actually going to affect the building for the long term. And the impacts of this is just a huge value to our customers. Our customers are coming back saying that they're able to see a big drop in their energy costs and they're able to, move forward on the next project. And it's just great on all rounds. The guests are happy when they come to stay, and then the customers are happy and we're happy as well. We always are trying to have an impact and make sure that we are definitely having a sustainable city here in DC. So we are trying to definitely reduce costs here for utility bills. So this is one of the impacts that we do have. Next slide. And you can go to the next slide. So this is something else for your information. So if you're a facility manager or a contractor who joined us as well, we do have some train green courses. Again, they are at no cost. And you can go to the link right there, and I will also put that in the chat as well. And it's just a lot of different courses that you can do, and they can just totally take a look at all of our courses that we're offering. Again, this is at no cost, and it can range from heat pump water, decarbonization, heat pump technology. So we have a plethora of opportunities that you can join, and if you want to take a course in some of our courses. Next slide. And lastly, so again, I'm here. I'm as a resource here. You can definitely scan me. Take a note of my information. I will definitely put it in the chat again, and we can definitely talk. I also have a link in my email as well when we do email, so that's pretty up to date as well. If you do want to get in touch, if you do want to schedule a meeting to talk about anything that's going on in your building, anything you're thinking about to pursue as well, I'm definitely here as a resource. And next slide. So that's all I have. Here's my information. It's pretty straightforward. I would love to talk further about your building, about the technology you're thinking about pursuing. Here's my direct line. That's my direct email as well. You can always call me anytime, and I'm usually pretty responsive. I can get back pretty quickly. And next, I wanted to introduce one of our valued customers. It's with David Kasperzak. He's been working with, well, the Embassy Suites has been with us for a very long time. Been working on projects with us since 2014. I've been here since 2015. We just completed a project with them last fall. And I'm very happy and very honored to introduce David. So David, take it away.
Definitely. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate this time to be with you. As Leah said, I'm the general manager of the Embassy Suites Washington, D.C. Convention Center. And I guess, when people think about hotels, they often think about comfort first. And they obviously should. Our guests expect to be in a room with the right temperature, plenty of hot water, bright public areas, and everything to just simply work. And our philosophy has never been energy efficiency instead of hospitality. It's been energy efficiency through better operations. And we've always believed if we do this well, guests won't notice we're saving energy. They'll just notice that they're in a better hotel. Every project we pursued has had to satisfy three objectives. 1, to improve the guest experience, 2, to reduce operating costs, and 3, to support Washington, D.C. sustainable goals. And one of the biggest reasons we've been so successful is we have an approach partnership with D.C. Sustainability Energy, access to expertise, to resources, and to opportunities that helped us make smarter long-term decisions. You can go to the next slide. Great. So I think and they may have mentioned it, but when people think of DCSEU, they often think of rebates. And obviously those incentives are incredibly valuable. But what's been even more valuable to us is how we've been able to create or have a trusted advisor who understands buildings, who's challenged our thinking, and has helped identify opportunities that we probably would not have otherwise pursued. Of course, the rebates are valuable, but the relationship has turned out to be even more valuable. Having a knowledgeable partner to help, evaluate the opportunities, build confidence in the investment decisions that have also then accelerated our progress. DCSEU has brought technical expertise that we don't always have internally. They've helped us evaluate projects objectively and often challenge the way that we think differently when going about this. On our side, we brought the operational knowledge. We know how the buildings actually function, where guests experience issues, where our maintenance dollars are spent, where future capital investments are planned. But when you combine both of those perspectives, you make better decisions than either organization would do on their own. And the real result isn't just lower utility costs. We've improved our building performance tremendously. We've increased our guest comfort, and we've strengthened our BEPS position through these longer term, smarter investments that we've made. You can go to the next slide. So every project became a collaborative discussion. Rather than asking what rebate's available, where's the rebate, what kind of money it can make, we started asking what is the best long-term solution for our building. And we viewed it as a 3-step process with DCSEU: identifying and evaluating energy conservation opportunities, navigating through them with the available incentives that we can get, and then them providing the technical expertise to us. Building controls is something that we invested in. We invested in smarter building controls that really manage our guest rooms effectively and efficiently. Those projects reduced waste while actually improving the consistency for our guests. We've invested in mechanical systems, the HVAC equipment, motors, controls, and built-in automation, not simply by replacing equipment because it was old, but because the operational return just justified it. Water conservation has also been something we've looked at, and that's typically less attention than electricity. But water conservation has been another meaningful opportunity for us that we have taken advantage of. And I think the biggest improvement we have had is data. Probably, just having that visibility. Better information allows us to identify problems earlier, prioritize capital spending, and verify that the projects that we've actually put our money into are performing as expected. We've invested in energy-related projects over the last few years, quite a bit. But having DCSEU involved has helped us prioritize those investments and our dollars much more effectively. And I think next slide would be great. So the results that we've had, DCSEUs help build confidence in our investments, by combining technical expertise with financial incentives. That's, obviously made it much easier for projects to move from ideas to implementation. Financially, every hotel we know has limited capital. The projects that see are the ones that save energy while also reducing maintenance costs or extending equipment life. Environmentally, obviously, lower energy use and water consumption is important, but we're also preparing for BEPS compliance and future regulations. Operationally, one benefit that surprised me was the discipline, the operational discipline. Better monitoring has led to better preventive maintenance and fewer emergency repairs. And the partnership, perhaps the biggest return, is big knowledge. Every project has made our engineers stronger as a team and made us more confident in tackling the next opportunity that we have in front of us. We really view that energy projects shouldn't be viewed as isolated events, but more about them becoming part of how you manage your building every day. Go to the next one. So lots of lessons. This was not a one-time interaction. As one project finished, we immediately began discussing what the next one was. That continuous relationship has allowed us to keep the momentum year after year here at the hotel and with our owners. The partnership has created value for everyone involved. The hotel, we benefit from lower operating costs, improved building performance. Our guests benefit from a more enjoyable and comfortable stay and a reliable experience. And our ownership benefits from an improved asset performance. And then DC even benefits because they're moving closer to their sustainable goals. Energy management, in our opinion, isn't a destination. It is an ongoing process. We'll continue to work with DCSEU to identify these new opportunities, escalate emerging technologies, and ensure we're operating as efficiently as possible. If I could, leave everyone with one takeaway, it would be that partnership matters. Not treating DCSEU as someone you call when you need rebate or money, but bringing them into the conversation very early at the very root of what you're doing. And then start with data. Measure first. Sometimes our assumptions about where energy is being used aren't actually correct. Think long-term. Not every project has a dramatic first-year ROI, but several smaller improvements working together can transform building performance over time. Engaging your team. Technology doesn't save energy by itself. Engineers, housekeepers, front office, and leadership all influence how efficiently a hotel can operate. And never stop improving. There isn't a finish line. Every year, we're identifying another opportunity, another adjustment, another improvement that can benefit all those involved. And I think when buildings operate more efficiently, equipment performs more reliably, guest comfort improves, maintenance becomes more proactive, our operating costs ultimately decline. And we're proud of what we accomplished. And I think we are more appreciative of the partnership we've had with DCSEU to help us become a better and more energy efficient hotel. And I'm happy to answer any questions offline if you have any. But thank you for this opportunity to share my experience.
Thank you, David. That was an excellent presentation. Very, very excited to have you here, and thank you for sharing with everybody. All right, you're back with me, for better or for worse. So I'm going to launch the last poll. Don't worry, it's one question. You should see it on your screen. Please feel free to take it while we move to the next section, which is the Q&A. And Carlene, keep us going to that last slide. Just real quick, and we're doing great on time. We got 20 minutes for questions, and I know you have burning questions. So the way to do it, you can write it in the Q&A. Our preferred method, that's the preferred method, and we'll answer in the order that we receive the questions, right? We have a question in the queue already, just one. Or if you have trouble with the Q&A, just throw it in the chat. And then lastly, if you would like to voice your questions, just raise your hand. There's a little hand icon that says raise under it. You can click that and I will call on you. Once I call on you, you can come off mute and ask your question. So with that, I'm going to jump right into that first question we got in the Q&A, which was from Stephanie. And thank you for your question, Stephanie. The question was, we just completed a cooling tower replacement with VFDs this year. Is there a way to get a rebate with our new equipment? And I don't know if I can answer this question, but if
I'm happy to
Lee-
take that, Caleb.
Okay.
The short answer is that's something we can definitely take a look at. So yes, Stephanie, I can definitely, if you want to reach out to me, again, my information should be in the chat. It's something we can definitely take a look at and see. That's definitely something we have supported in the past. It's just, it's a matter of like taking a look at the existing equipment, seeing the new equipment, and just compare and contrast. And what I also want to make clear as well, sometimes, sometimes some of these projects aren't so black and white. It's not like, yes, this is eligible, no, that's not eligible. It really does require us taking a look at what's already in place, what they're trying to replace it with. Is it meeting code? Is it just barely meeting code? Is it justify a rebate? So I would say that's definitely worth taking a look at and seeing where we can go from there.
Thank you, Lee. And thank you, Stephanie, for your question. All right, I'm going over to the chat to see if there's anything. I'm not seeing anything. All right, I'm not seeing anything in the chat. So is there any brave souls that want to raise their hand and ask a question with their voice? Please feel free. But I'm not gonna, if there are no questions, I'm not gonna hold you guys to it, but there should be. And I see you come off mute, David. Go ahead.
Good question. Second cycle was mentioned, I think January 2029, when it resets. When will more information come forward about that so we can start planning forward, getting ready for that? I think, for our hotel, I think we were very fortunate because of our, working with you all. But what I want to do differently is get ahead of this versus this first cycle.
David,
BEPS. I'm sorry, because it comes to BEPS.
Yeah. I assumed that's what you were talking about. And so I can take that question. And first of all, I want to commend you for wanting to get ahead. I mean, that's definitely been, and a theme that we've seen is, now that we've gone through this first cycle, kicking the tires, people are really understanding what it means. So looking ahead, there are a couple things. One, so DOEE is going to base what the standard is. So if you recall, whether or not a building entered a compliance cycle is based on what their Energy Star score was for the 2018-2019 benchmarking years. And so for hotels, that was 54. So hotels that were above 54, their Energy Star score, they were deemed already in compliance and didn't have to take action. If you're below 54, then you had to take action and enter the compliance cycle. So similarly, DOEE will be looking at data it's actually not, I'm not 100% sure whether they're going to be looking at the 2026 data or the 2027 data. Now that there's been an extension of a delay, I think they're finalizing which year will be considered for establishing this standard, but it'll be a similar process of, what is the median Energy Star score for your building type? So, and then what is that, is your score above that standard or is it below that standard? And you'll enter the compliance cycle based on that information. And I mentioned that we were looking at some analysis with AOBA on the performance pathway and the standard pathway. We actually had another blog, which I did not reference, which is looking at how medians have changed over time. And so we are seeing that trends are improving. So as you'd understand, right, all these buildings have been doing all this work, so the median is likely to be higher for the next cycle. So I'll take a moment and find that blog that I can drop in the chat, so you can see kind of where we found the medians to be. But noting that DOEE is actually, it's an independent analysis and not necessarily what DOEE will base on. And one more thing I just wanted to add with this next cycle, there's going to be an alternative compliance pathway based on a trajectory approach which is new to DC. A lot of other jurisdictions are using it, but and the requirements and the guidelines around this alternative compliance pathway are still in the works. But I wanted to highlight that because what that means is that buildings that enter the trajectory approach will have a more of a long-term focus on how to reduce their compliance and understand where they need to be, as opposed to like every cycle, is my score above or below? So just keep an eye out for all that. And hopefully that's helpful. The hub is here to answer questions, and I'll also drop my information in the chat if you want to follow up with anything.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you, David, for your question too. I see a question from Fatima. Apologies if I mispronounced your name, but the question is regarding carbon emissions. Have any action been supported by the DCSEU, and also are there any action in your projects? I might need a little bit more clarification from you. I'm assuming I'll unpack this question a little bit further, just what I think they may be asking. I see you, Patty, raising your hand. I think you're asking how we support a reduction of emissions. So if that's the case, Patty, go on. Come on off mute.
Yeah, I was going to suggest you, Patty.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you guys. I got lost in the Q&A and it was taking up my whole screen and I couldn't figure out how to get back to to share my screen. I'm very excited that you asked this question because that is one of the things that I have been working on recently, and we hope to. We have just soft launched a pilot. So how do I phrase it? I wasn't expecting to talk about it, but I did a presentation about this yesterday for our advisory board. DCSEU is in a very unique position because our savings metric, we're a performance contract, right? And our number one performance goal is savings, and that's taken a lot of forms throughout the 15 years that we've been in existence. We started with, megawatt hours and therms, and then MMBTU, and then MMBTU source. But now we are metric tons of CO2. That is our number one performance metric, which means that anything that leads to a reduction in GHG, which is still megawatt hours, therms, and other things, right? But we've been able to roll out other activities like being able to lawn equipment, drive the lawn mowers that you can drive, right? You get off the gasoline and now you switch to electric, and there's a conversion factor for that to get metric tons of CO2. We've also last year rolled out a refrigerant recovery and reclamation pilot that I'm actually presenting on at ACEEE this year, if anybody that's familiar with ACEEE. So that is where, when things are at the end of life, which we've been doing a lot of electrification work to lower GHGs. So it's not just energy efficiency, but it's getting off of gas and getting onto heat pumps. So when those systems are retired, we want the refrigerant from the older system to be properly recovered, recycled, sent to a reclaimer. The reclaimer cleans it up. It's kind of like recycling an aluminum can. And then there's metric tons of CO2 equivalent in that, because the refrigerants have sometimes thousands of more, they impact, let me put it this way. There's something called global warming potential for each one of those refrigerants, which makes them 2,000 times or more worse in terms of metric tons of CO2. So there's another conversion factor that we're able to do and claim metric tons of CO2 from that work. The newest thing that I've been working on is trying to provide rebates and incentives for distributed energy resources so that's heat pumps. That could be heat pumps, that could be heat pump water heaters, that could be batteries, right? These things are able to change when they take energy from the grid, when they supply energy from the grid, when they decide not to take energy from the grid. And we can look at that operation. So we're launching something, and I'm so glad I can talk about it right now. I'm calling it Carbon Smart Affordability Operations. Carbon Smart, all one word, big C, big S, Carbon Smart. So what you're doing is operating your distributed energy resources in a carbon aware, carbon smart way. We haven't fully rolled this out yet, but we hope in the next fiscal year to do that. So what have we done to soft launch? We just installed 2 controllers on 2 heat pump water heaters this week, which is very exciting. And right now I'm working to figure out how to get a larger battery into our system, but everything takes a little time because we have a legal team. So all of our agreements and the things that we put out need to go through legal and make sure everything's okay. So right now the participation agreement to do that is with legal. Anyway, thank you for your question. I maybe took too long, sorry about that, but it is an exciting path that we're going down. So energy efficiency, still a pillar of what we do, affordability, all of those things, but I see this as the next chapter of energy efficiency and affordability. So thank you for your question.
And thank you, Patty. And,
Sure.
And thank you, Fatima, for your question, or Fatima for your question. I'm going to go back to the Q&A because there's one more question, or there might be a couple more. There's one from Emmanuel. Regarding BEPS compliance, does electricity generated by a solar PV system and exported to the grid count towards reducing a building's adjusted EUI? And I don't know, Mary, if this is something that you might want to address.
Mary, do you want that, or should I come on? And did we lose Mary?
You might have better detail on that. What I can do is look for the guidance on solar, and I'll drop that in the chat. But if you want to answer this question, that'd be great.
Yes, please read the guidance, because that is the number one thing. But it depends on your pathway. It depends on where you are, right? So I think on the standard target pathway, because you're just trying to hit an Energy Star score, it can help you. But if you're doing the performance pathway where you're doing 20% improvement, it's not allowed to help you because it's a source value rather than at site value. But again, please read the documentation. What it does help with is in BEPS 2, your Energy Star score is impacted by the installation of solar. So it will help in BEPS 2, but it might not necessarily help in BEPS 1, pathway dependent, which is complicated. But please read what Mary's going to put in there, because I am definitely not the final word. That's just my understanding.
Thank you, Patty, and thank you, Mary, for dropping that in there. Emmanuel, I just tagged you in the chat and I see that. Thank you. So definitely use those links. And I know we have another question from Carl. I have to say before I ask this question, I love your name. Carl Cash is a great name. So Carl had a question: how far back can we go to request a rebate for jobs that have been completed? So I'm going to take this one, but if there's any clarification needed from Lee, Patty, Crystal, but for prescriptive rebates, typically the project needs to start and be completed within the fiscal year. So this fiscal year is October 1st of 2025 through September 30th of 2026. So that's typically for a prescriptive or self-service rebate. That's what it's gonna take for how far we can go back. There may be some leniency there, but I say just bring it to us and let us make the call. But don't not bring it, because the worst we could say is no.
Yeah, and I can add on to that. Thanks, Kaylin. That's pretty much it. And then as well, that's definitely the way it works for custom as well. We will take a look at anything past our fiscal year from October 1, 2025, all the way up until now, September 30th, 2026. So we will definitely take a look and see where we're at, see when it was installed, see when it's actually operating, see, what we can do with that. But anything outside of that, we cannot offer rebates. It has to be within this fiscal year. However, we are also, and I'm not sure if I made this clear, we are also taking a look at projects for the next fiscal year too. So if you have anything on for the next fiscal year, it's definitely something worth taking a look at as well.
Thank you, Lee, and thank you, Carl. Much appreciated. I'm moving back to the chat to see what's going on. I see Mary has posted some additional links there. Thank you, Mary. And I know we're at 1:26. We're really good on time. We have about 4 minutes left. So if there's any more questions, feel free to post them in the Q&A, post them in the chat, or if you're feeling brave, raise your hand and I'll call your name and you can come off mute and ask your question via voice. And I'm gonna double check to make sure there's nobody hiding in that Q&A down there. Nope, I don't think so. I'll take this moment to repeat again that we'll have these slides in the recording made available to all who registered. It'll be emailed to you all post the event. The recording as well as the slides will also be posted on the DCSEU resource library. And if you don't know what that is, you're about to get a link to it as well. And here that resource library is very, very quickly. And it has a lot of past info session recordings as well, and some helpful articles that you may find helpful. So feel free to peruse, and it'll be posted there very shortly as well as emailed to you. And I did my 60-second vamp, and I don't see any more questions. So while I think we are safe to wrap up. So